Bello University ZARIA to step in for workers.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the high table, and distinguished audience and members of the press. I came back actually yesterday around 3 o'clock from Lagos, the chairman of the National Justice Commission Competition Panel for University of Lagos Faculty of Law, and I was almost down, by small malaria, actually, but I committed myself to this particular action program because I just happens to be an undergraduate law student, and I've forgotten that I was one that recommended him for his master's program, in UK. I was happy that after his LADAN program, he decided to actually proceed for his PhD program. And so when he asked me to be ready for a keynote address, I said, not for him, but for the nature and relevance and topicality of the topic, I'll be there, even if just to check it for 10-15 minutes. In the first instance, the organizers asked me to deliver a keynote address on the topic, ethno-religious difference, recurrent violence, and peace building in Nigeria, with particular reference to Bauchi, Plateau, and Kaduna State. Mr. Chairman, permit me to start with my central argument is that neither ethnicity nor religion in any human or politically organized society is a source of conflict. And the reason actually for my argument in this particular context is that there is no human civilization and there is no politically organized environment where ethnicity per se or religion per se is an automatic source of conflict, unless and until ethnicity is either politicized or manipulated, and religion is either politicized or manipulated by the elites, i.e. political elites, military elites, and then educated elites, like those of us that are present here. And the reason actually for this argument is that the Nigerian Constitution has recognized diversity in the Nigerian people. And to be diversified in terms of ethnic background, cultural, linguistic, social, and religious background is a strength in itself in every human society. And therefore, simply because we have ethnic differences, or we have religious differences, or we have linguistic differences, or we have social differences, it's not in itself an automatic basis to trigger actually conflict. Now, ethnicity, I've always argued in the last 15 years that ethnicity standing alone or religion per se standing alone is never and has never been a source of conflict in any human society. But when religion is actually manipulated to selfish ends by the same elite groups, especially in Nigeria, or when ethnicity is politicized by the same elite groups actually in Nigeria for their selfish ends. And what is that selfish ends? The struggle for access to power. Second, the struggle for access to resources. Because our elites actually in Nigeria, each time they are struggling for access to power at the local or state or federal level, or each time they are struggling for access to resources, which the two are tied together, because in most African conflicts, access to power is also about access to resources. And so once actually you have the elites on the same boat, in the same government as Christians and as Hausa, Fulanis, and then Yorubas, Igbos, Calabaris, and then you have actually other ethnic groups. They do not actually find fault or see any reason why they must fight each time they are together, running the affairs of the nation, and then at the same time benefiting from the resources of the local government, or the state, or of the federal government of Nigeria. But the moment a particular member of the political elite in particular is out of office, or is removed from office, or he actually lost access to power and access to resources, the tendency always is for the elites actually to go back to their constituencies and say, okay, you see, Governor Patrick Okowa removed me as his advisor or as his commissioner because I'm actually from northern Kaduna state. Or Governor removed me, as a power because I'm a Christian. But at the time he was serving as a commissioner, he never went back to his constituency to accuse the governor, or to accuse Yakowa, or to accuse the current vice president as a former governor of the state. This has been the tendency that the elites have always actually played. And one of the reasons why they've been succeeding, and I've always made the argument, and I've always repeated this argument, that they've been succeeding because we've allowed the people at the local level to be impoverished, and some of them to continue to remain actually at the level of illiteracy and ignorance. And therefore, they cannot actually figure out who is right and what point in time, they should actually stop listening to these elite groups. And so, I've actually listed about 10 reasons to support my central argument that ethnicity or ethnic differences alone can never be, and it has never been in any human civilization or society a source of conflict unless this is politicized or religion is actually manipulated. And at times, religion may not be manipulated, but it could also be a basis of one, extremism or fanaticism, and therefore we lose actually control and the culture of tolerance. And so, in most instances, you will find that when you actually lack the culture of tolerance, the culture actually of dialogue, the tendency actually is that, at the slightest actual provocation, you resort to actually a violent conflict, and therefore, religion in that context may not have been manipulated, but because of religious intolerance, i.e. arising from extremism or fanaticism, we actually allow room for violent conflict, to be a basis actually for our religious differences. And I've always made the argument. I said, why actually should we see our religious differences as a basis for violent conflict? There is no actual basis at all. Because the fact that we lack the culture of tolerance is about accommodation of the recognition of the fact that A is of a different religious background, B is of a religious background, and I, C, am also of a different religious background. And having to recognize that difference of our religious background and peculiarities, we learn to accommodate each other in that difference actually that we have in our religious beliefs and actually associated cultural values, that we can actually first respect each other in that context and then move ahead to promote what actually can unite us actually best or better, and at the same time appreciate the fact that we have different religious and ethnic values and cultures. And so the difference in ethnicity or in religion is about a strength in diversity. It is not in itself a basis actually for any violent conflict. But I've given you actually 9 actual reasons in my paper, and which I'm going to give you actually a summary as to why ethnicity can be a source of conflict, and why religion can be a source of conflict, and why it has been so in the context of Nigeria, in particular reference to Bauchi, Kaduna, and Plateau State. Mr. Chairman, I believe strongly that one of the reasons why we must appreciate our ethno-religious differences is because the character of Nigerian society must be built on the respect for the rule of law. Because the role actually of rule of law is to provide for an orderly society. It's to provide